Soy Let us take a moment and cultivate the highest form of motivation. We call it bodhicitta motivation, or the altruistic motivation, seeking complete enlightenment for the benefit of all other sentient beings. And with that kind of motivation, we should all participate in this teaching. Allow me to read about a page or two from this Lamrim Chemo, the great treatise on the stages of the path leading to enlightenment by Manjushri Lama Tsongkhapa, volume number 2 in the English translation, page 137, to give you the blessing of oral transmission first, followed by explanation.
Geshe ba jewo nyang de so so de da so jang dong ma na da ni ta dong tu chung xing ye sa ma me de ti jin la le dong bo wa dong me de me sim jie on du che ba dong ni wa len be da wa ni wa len be da wa dong da da ge da gen ba la ne ba la ji ji bu dong bu sui ba 十分之多，名字就是说，就是觉得心情当时基本上不做不了就啊。他的大概就是萝卜萝卜和松节和小这炒水煎就小我的松松的呢，平均对马地比你我现在把这些引进。现在你把那嘛也得像什么老师什么什么没把啦，老的那个松些肉我讲。 de tarche no sen no la chu no sen ni shu no ro me de be pang ba ke ba ran ja wo pa ni de ba le jang 切的龙王的王，就是讲现的推崇见不着嘛的呢，今年龙马哇，就是马就是吧。前边这个的已经学了，现在龙王中的王就能今年现在马没就是我准备。就能把它写完了，写完用手帮这个你的小写手，金币给这边你不对吧？那这多一年多了，英雄啊，在那写的马公巴的嘛，古巴等，下巴的嘛，这不马东啊，我掉了，当不呢，金巴的写的字也写的，我不了，金巴的我的。第二我呢，你问题呢，到我这金巴了，空巴嘛是别两巴。你是娘的，你娃儿不是些那个天啊，金巴马达那叫啊，金巴拉样啊，金巴拉每个วัน就是你们都说的到底不金巴些去，马个没你别昂的没到我，你把你弄去好像穷嘛，老点的，都没是没叫我的，第年不年的娘的到过那个。跑了偏到把了我家里先接我的这边这工老师东哎，说个我忙不牛呢。看得见老别到不了的女学在地东哎，天大呀，钱样大了，钱大了，你进不是可那里就乱不是多吧？你买的。龙泉没讲，龙泉没讲，我给这样乱怎么说娘的，上完那个旁边别东个大堂对浪的什么小伙说把你们进去，这些都一点我先说的叫拉上那个乱了，当时没叫你们第年不你吃别你我就不第牛啊，没不是些那个大东我了。都娘的对些现在了在这么的，你们起码了东西，结巴那娘的现在的帮的，我不进不去不，起码你这么当了的呢，做比上就朋友能，那么通往到龙泉是不朋友了的，你们东西什么结巴的，天你不呢，你不天女儿娃这不是些呢，些你们这人对些东西给有人呢就不东西什么。龙泉这玩意儿的，你们金巴木刚东他些上有什么人我写吧，我龙泉老少别那么怎么了到呢？人家现在有些他们些旁边没不是现老多人，现在从不了开怎讨钱，说那没到吧？现在龙泉先不到这他吧呢，没到的新加坡嘞。这是金巴印金巴拉，这不先不用就是些领导用说东啊那要从不先的，这没不是就先说你把三把怎么接，金巴呢不是送的，一弄的那三把，他今年他呢，当面金巴是下雨，这那做家乡不把你们东。东啊，道别处呢，什么简单啊，什么简单了，金啊，不是没不是小问题，就从这出门，说能把这没不陪我当太阳上，就我先把先生把见姐姐，把小我老送。就我都没得别的小和让理性上的修，让的是小娃让老生给小把的送去。就那些家前面说我嘛也没弄去，没再进不去的。前边现在进不进不那呢？老是拿不到别随便那什么拿不到别啥老是么拿不到别啥程度，没多跑的引进。啥都没得把人这边啥头呢弄去就这边风波没谁的上山里边在那我想说什么呢？其实这个上班人上班那边大吧，没多就把都弄去的，但没一点多些这边多些的现在这些是不是我一弄想说什么那边上班大班。现在人送来养大把了，带把头把就把带到位，菜上的就弄去没事为把没送去谁没些把头把就先送不说，先把这个东的 상세에 잡아 손에 손에 사도 진발로 너무 되시는 좋아 좋아도 아셔봐 되지도 대니는 주바나제 난가 셔바시 니면 로보 바바도 마 셔바도 루루도 루주도 게자바세니 무진 좀 로시게도 동 베바라시니 데다 냥소 롬바다 가와 곰바샤 바다 로데다 라마장바라 이 로데다 라마자바라 이 동아제 그때 대다시나 라상의 시발리에 소바타라 체라힌데 되게 생각이 배워져 봐. 시바 뉴지. 대다타마 제 돈에 샹네니 센데레 양 제데 예바 현주 지와 남지 내지 예바 현주 지와 남지 균두 거바 저라라 체라 현데 양 체라 현두 용님들의 창조 선배제발로 저번 현대 가와 지위 셔로 다 대리 현존 대리 가서 그 진바 동동데 그다 가지 진바 당보 사회도 대 가래나 에는 직공지 진바 가 동으로 스타가 동으로 되게 다 계지 들야 엔수 센나메나 에는 리붐도 드레나 센나메나 야마다나 예바요 말레스 다 센나유나 इन करे न सोला केशम खंडे जी न को ई मजी तों कुरेस ओ तिसम लारवा ता तेरी दी तिने मा मिसेल फिशा जोवा ता तेरी बे जाने न तातो सेना जी तों माने न खारशा वरसे न ओ तेरी दिने हिया इस्ता खजी
So we're at the bottom of page 137, volume number 2 in the English translation of Lamrim Chemo. And the subpoint title reads, What to Do If You Are Unable to Give. So we have been talking about Bodhisattva's perfection of generosity or Dan Paramita. And we have talked about a number of things related to the practice of generosity or giving. And one of the things that we already talked about is this, that in a generic sense, we should give away what we have to benefit others. Okay? Especially those things that we are very miserly about. Right, we have very attached to things. We are very miserly about parting them away. So those are the things we should really try to give to others and let go, so to speak, our miserliness. But if you don't have miserliness or stinginess, senna, with regard to X, Y, Z, then it's okay not to give the X, Y, Z. Okay? If you don't have a miserliness or stinginess, in regards to X, Y, Z. We are really not necessarily required to give up at X, Y, Z. But if we do have miserliness, then we should give away X, Y, Z to counteract our miserliness and to let go our miserliness. So those are the things we talked about last time. And now maybe the question that we could ask ourselves, or question that's being raised is, what if still the stinginess or miserliness is deep down in me, that I still have difficulty giving away everything you suggest that I should be giving away, right? I still have that problem, right? We have miserliness. And so this is what we are going to talk about, how to deal with the things that we find it difficult or we are unable to give away, okay?
제가 이봐 동어만이 제가 쳐는是吧 龙不得该看的龙不得那当门的那这个说的变挪龙就的说的也把点点着呀西的上些看没不点这个这个那挪进没的现在些吧金把当呢那个才忙不龙就呀点这个上忙不动那动也都不大过的是吧可是点多么的呢인 땅아베 좁은 시부제 다시 된 두거든 더도 베 지바도 되지 세나산이 시부 두자레스 제가 뒤에다 베 인지 민지 그래서 예바 시부지 도스는 얘네 디레신 그게 그래서 당시 on the show, don't be写到搜索的感觉麻烦呢，你写到就不认识，天天上我动过来是吧？但现在是上午开始就当嘛的呢，感觉过动嘛都是的，动嘛的那一点，老不得了，别个他给这年不写的别，这个名字làm sao mà làm写，你看这没有吧？就这的写，看看就看到么子，他写写的，你写也要不写的。इन सोच पे नियमित तांगा तेरे जीवन में निते तुम को और ते ता तुम वो सेने ते पैसा समझे या नियमित आगो बेस वो तो सो दा
Of course, it is not easy to overcome our stinginess or miserliness with regard to our possessions and things we own. And so how we really prepare ourselves to practice generosity is, oftentimes, we have to engage in the contemplation such as this, that we think about the benefits of giving, right? Being kind, being generous, and sharing what we have with others, giving away. The benefits of doing that, and the demerits or the disadvantages of holding and being possessive and being attached to the things and, and don't give away things. So we have to really, in other words, think about the pros and cons of giving and not giving, things like that. So that's part of our mind training contemplation to deal with miserliness or stinginess. And we should really engage in this sort of a intra-personal dialogue, like within ourselves, right? Intra means to yourself, not to somebody else. That's intra, right? Intra, within yourself. So basically, we have to sort of have this dialogue, honest dialogue with ourselves. Say, you know what? I'm really under the influence of my self-cherishing, self-grasping, isn't it? Okay? And it's kind of a shame for me that, what I should be doing is be generous, kind, help others, right? But now I'm not able to do that. Why? Because I'm really controlled and dominated by, self-grasping and self-cherishing attitude, And this is kind of a, how should I say, embarrassing in a sense, for me that I'm under, their influence. So I really need to, have that honest dialogue with myself and then think about the benefits of giving and the faults of not giving. So even with that kind of a training, right, we don't assume that miserliness will be gone here and hereafter, and then we will be able to give everything, right? And there may be situations where still, miserliness, kind of holds us back. So, what? Yeah, you can't give that. I just can't. I'm still attached. I just need it, whatever, right? So in such a situation, maybe, we have to be honest with the recipients of the gifts, right? The one who has asked for the gift. We say, what? I really want to be honest with you. I know, I want to give away everything, but to be honest with you, at the moment, I'm not ready. I still feel attached to the things, So I don't want to upset you, please try to understand me. I'm just working on myself right now, kind of thing, right? And so please don't be upset, I really have difficulty letting go of stuff right now, So please, take my explanation for what it is. So that's the kind of thing maybe we need to, offer to the one who have asked for gift. We call it recipients.
你过现在你把帮下团的可能贴写什么都是，你现在没有嘛？就是过现在有人当嘛不是吧？这些的现在有那这像就是把了用这些呢，那丢了也没法送下，那第团的了呀，过现在有那来，这了这边现在有把用我人都写了我，我这些呢。送这些，但这些呢，生意都是这个偏向这个偏把看的有个，基本上当现在呢有是，那个生意是个有些是到嘛是呢，这些那个了你们单是要我写为呢，但是自动的话，生意相当没得是呀，自动就呢，相当没得的了呀，自动经销是吧？我觉得这了你们没得是，工地去厂是吧？自动用了，但是个用的人子。你们没得谁的厂要嘛是吧？厂没得，个自动用嘛，这是但感觉偏多周考虑要身体这样的时候的。
So now the point that has been raised is, so what's the point of doing this, giving this explanation to the one who has asked for the gifts, telling honestly to him or her that, what, I really want to give it away, but I'm really stuck a little bit with my attachment and things like that. So please forgive me at the moment, I'm just working on me, right? So what purpose does it serve? The fact is that, right? You admit to your miserliness, so miserliness is in you. You did not benefit the person, so you still want to keep the thing. So what's the point of engaging in this kind of a explanation enterprise sort of thing here? Well, what's the whole point? The point here is we are being honest with ourselves. We are practitioners, right? We do not assume that we don't have a problem here. We do. We are working on our miserliness. And so when we follow the Bodhisattva's way of life, we have committed ourselves to the Bodhisattva's deeds, and that involves the 18 what we call fundamental or root commitments. So we do not want to transgress our root commitments. So one of the root commitments is chönor mithe, not giving dharma discourse and wealth, right? That's one of the commitments. So in order to incur root transgression, that must be characterized by what is called, literally translating, 4 fetters, right? It's a kundishi. That means you have certain attitudes, right, that go with it. We just like, you even don't bother to think about it. You don't even see a problem here. You even don't acknowledge, that not giving is a fault, So because, we respect and we agree with the Bodhisattva's way of giving that we should give, but at the moment, we are being honest, I couldn't part away with this, right? I'm still attached to, when you're attached to it, there's something to work upon, right? So that means we are not disregarding our commitment, right? We are just being honest, and so that in that way, we don't incur, root transgression or downfall. Okay, so that's one of the benefits.
Tisha parjin deba lombo parjin deba le che gelungun di chur kasa lombo ngun chinza ta de ma sonya de in tuition kar pengirsa na in tata tos ba jang tata sena yueza ne sena nieba tan nimux tan ba jange na in pa ba sin sena set ba chagres o tise or da kongres o tsim da se ba yong se ba ne den sha de ba de rin sha ta de si gang gang ma sing de jam go ton da do do de de sha
So, great Indian master Ashwa Ghosh, has said that by being honest and dealing with our miserliness pertaining to X, Y, Z, this is how slowly we make incremental, right, progress improvement, and this is how slowly we are able to overcome our miserliness.
Jimbe yig yimbo tembalas da jimbaton de yig de kazen yig de ya dual sun se yig here is so magumba se jimbaton magumba she guba she na lungju minge de ba guba da en shakba se de senna de mare da rewa in de lungju shakba she in ribu madon as de jimbaton e pike pheon de madon ha ma she ko ti jimbaton gi ta yig de de ti she yore so Young ko jiba toya magum yin ta an ti be mel to me chen re che young men so jobo shin toya me shin da jiba toya yo ma ra young men lung ju ye na te cha ni te cha do me go ti che o ta ti just mix me na la en ko jiba ta in de jibu pe che wa shi ma lung ju so yo ya o ti jibu ma to yin za en ti de shin en jiba me do ge ge de shi de wal song sha shi ta
At the bottom of page 138, point C reads, relying on the remedies for the hindrances for generosity. In Bodhisattva's Levels Compendium of Determination, there's mention of a couple of what we call hindrances or obstacles to practice generosity. And the obstacle can be because, maybe giving is a new habit for us, isn't it? We have never tried it, and so our habit is to hoard and keep it to ourselves, right? So when we started with a new habit, right, it's not easy, right? So because of our habituation, we don't like to give things away. That's one obstacle, hindrance, right? or that we are really poor, we don't have much to give. Poverty is, in terms of material giving, you need to have resources to give away. So if you are poor, that's another issue there. Or that we do have things, but our problem is we are attached to our possessions. Attachment is the obstacle here. Or that we really never consider the benefits of giving. So we have really never considered the positive outcomes that come out of generosity. So, we don't want to give. So there are obstacles that are mentioned, and we need to understand them and deal with them.
어디 다디 님보 당보데 데도 마군비 님보 데라 태상구에서 다 걸사 짐바 제여기데 안에 메도 저는 다 이게 에네 다 짐바 메도 데 가리 랭기도가 어디 삼라다니 에네 생각 짐바 동안 마군비 디게 랭샤스 어디 람상 님밍도 가네 뇌시에도 가네 게 가네도 어디 람상 무슨 무셔버려서 와 르바 셰네세 Tia Jima Matan Jawashima Jimbala Mekan Yuru Sozo Tadi, Jimba Sheki, Magumi Nimi on the Meton was what did that Megum Tomo de Magumba Tia Nimi Resha. That the Matan Jawashima Jimbelum that Lungia to Ganga Yungu to say that Kongu Duxim in that Tonya Pakanje Magumiti on the Mazon in it, Tonya God of Zugur.
So we're on top of page 134, and the first point that is highlighted is called the hindrance of not being used in generosity, or used to, which means, maybe we have, we are lacking the habit of generosity. Okay? So we have to really kind of look inwardly and say, why I find it difficult to give away things? Why I'm not generous and kind? Why? So one reason could be that really I have been lacking this habit of giving, isn't it? I have never familiarized myself, habituated myself in kindness, in generosity. Okay? And that's why now I find it really hard to give anything. Now, if I continue with this habit, then I will never be able to give anything, right, in this life, also in future lives, because this habit that I have, will continue over many lifetimes, and it is an obstacle. Yeah. So somehow, however difficult it is, I really need to start it here, right? I have to have a new chapter opening here, right? So I have to try to learn how to give. So this is how we try to break our old habit and try to create a new habit and try to nurture it,
어디 다 뒤치 니바다 롱주 슈마산다 롱주 하장 슈마라 데네 또 메제원네 티 니바 디냐데 다 나 코통을 맞는 배 현을 배야 상도들이 그 자는 맞이자 인다 쪼버 휴들이兄弟어르스 셰다다 다다서도 쪼버들 지금 사구퉁이 팀부대 지금 선나로 시가시에는 에네 다도 마다는 에네 깨와시마디 유는 틀어 도고도래 다 깨와시마 가르사 챈들 대땅시나 지금 저도고래선 에네 로동신다 서도 가르치는 시다 째샤선 에네 팀부대 바대 그래서 왔다
다디게 근데 கொஞ்சம் தேனாலியா பேஜே 소남 냠베로 스큐샤 니바데 갈수 없게 라 근데 게 니바데 로와게
니바데르다 니바네스 롱조 하장 송알데 때네 동안 동에 세메자와네 메자와데스 어디 니바데르
라오
디르
다 간제 롱조 하장 총와데 게 규젠데 소남 총베 게 그랬을 게 라고 말하고 라고
라 알레스
네
단다 데려와 마군 바지 구바담
니바데게
데 제가 구바데 니바데 구바세 데려와
라고 구바데 소남 냠 충베 겐기 구바 차샤다 다다 마다면 디스거게 좀 제대로
알레 쪼보냐데 디 다다 신이 어디는 것을 같으리
윤주 등급도 왜게
알라
딘의 대용도 소남 충어서게
소능 충어서 데도 하정 아니 하정 롱주 충발라시로 롱주스는다 손놈스는 다 직방으로 저러와 롱주 shum어서야 돼.
So we are in the middle of page 139. I was just double checking, what I heard Geshe explain and what I'm reading here in the English, right? I have a little sort of a gap here, so I thought just to make sure that I don't misrepresent what he's trying to say or things here. So the second hindrance highlighted is called the hindrance of declining fortune. Okay, so in the Tibetan version, it seems like poverty, right? Not having that is a hindrance. Okay, so for me, fortune and there's a little kind of a disparity there. So anyway, so I asked for clarification, and Geshe said, if we find ourselves in a situation that we really think that I don't have much to give, I'm lacking in material, resources to give away things, and then I think we have to acknowledge here that it probably is due to the lack of fortune or the merit, So I need to accumulate merit. So whatever little things I have, so I should still try to be generous here so that my fortune or the merit will increase, and then I will be able to have resources to be able to give. So we have to, think about, I guess that's called the declining fortune or the merit. Why I'm poor is because I haven't earned enough merit, to have a lot of resources. And now, if I continue the same habit, I'll have the same situation. So I need to learn to share whatever little things I have and be generous.
This is that been job of that's big Karsa. Kala, that things I call so sad, you won't be mean. And didn't get 11 there.
No.
That was what do you want. So they come Chagua. So now, and got some done that. Give on the table to the day as a Tadajo direction or that other direction to tell a door younger was. That is a very cheap due to some. So that's in jail, so the Karshina said, that you do is going to make a get away to that just there.
So the example Geshe has given is, let's say we are so poor that let's say, we barely have enough to fill our stomachs, right? We have a little bit of food, and then somebody shows up our door, let's say, like, can you give me some food? I'm really hungry. Now we have a really difficulty, right? We have just only little that's good for ourselves, and giving it away to this other person who also needs the food is kind of a difficult, right, situation. So when we find ourselves in that situation, this is how we develop our courage. You know what? I think that person, needs it more than I do. It's okay. I have always eaten things for myself. Really, never learned to give away to anybody else. So whatever, I'm going to give this to this other person, and I'm not going to die, right, skipping one meal somehow. Things will work out fine in some sense, think kind of positively, and be courageous and give the food to the other person, and you will be okay, So this is how we deal with that situation.
Oh, dear, that's still workers that Shaba said, that somebody Geshe Hindi, you showed the Joel Shan, long, don't send me Java. This is that didn't work and it Shabadi, but Lamsanko in the theater, so Shaba Rigni. And if you get that, they Lunjo of the Shaba Rigni, that Lunjo del Shan and those God of Cordeina, and then Delhi Yingni, Tado beget. Karsa the word we are get good of sun maybe and there in the China. Any big Karsa doing one. There was similar big Dungay Tadajima Matana. Any Tada days you're the dick, couldn't do here and him with hammer or ray has some lansa. So be Zel Shah David Young Mudu show. That was Mudu check into sin and some of them that then Delhi Ying do the Delhi Ying dinner. But another Lucia Shabon the Tilly and the tick for Lucia Cono Jews Juni in the church Yagum over the Yungumar or did the sound on any that table is that day I come to 10,000 but on the country.
So we are still on page 139, point number 3, the hindrance of attachment. Not having resources to help others is an issue or problem. But even if we may have a lot, but if we're attached to our things, that's another problem as well. Okay? And especially we have a tendency to get attached to the things that we have, which are kind of valuable, more beautiful, more attractive, right? All that positive attributions we give to our things, right? So those are the ones we are more attached to. And so in order to learn to give them away, so we have to think in this kind of a thinking thoughts that, this is what I have been all the time, and I'm attached to my things. I kept it for myself, and so because of my attachment to things, my life has been very busy, right? Accumulating wealth, resources, increasing the wealth. So I have been really distracted by the wealth production and the wealth increase and all of that. And in the process, I have never found time to do positive things or practice, And as a matter of fact, this is really distraction for me as a spiritual practitioner or from spiritual point of view. And if I continue with this attachment, well, I will face many more problems in my future lives, right? Because it's a delusion, afflictive emotion. It never gets better if you keep it. It'll just get worse. And so therefore, really, I should learn to give up a little by little, isn't it? Now, whether you will actually be able to give in that situation is a different matter. At least start thinking that thought, at least that contemplation, right? So that will create some space in the mind, right? And that might, help us to train our mind.
我这现在他这里考虑，这里他考虑年龄的牙齿啊，现在的动过，他现在做的生了的了吧？现在这说的，他这里被农村项目有那农村项目这里店呢，那说了这样，人家就要了吧？啊，这个从把这这里那电视当中说去呢，听不破是吧？但没现在跟说的都啥的，这说谁能写着话讲嘛？这下下这样子，个片头做里面还个么了？我今天是的感觉，这个农村的年龄忙都上呢，可是帮过那个谁那个要么吧？就想我都说话嘛。我就觉得你把我上了当过来是吧
？So the real problem that we face not being able to be kind and generous and share things with others is the miserliness. So which always communicates to us that you need it more than others. Just keep it for yourself, right? And that's kind of a mental attitude that we have. So in order to counteract that miserly attitude, we have to think in all possible ways, how perhaps giving away is a better option than keeping things for ourselves. Even if we are very rich, let's say, wealth is fraught with lots of risks and dangers as well, isn't it? Many people lose their lives because they are rich. Nobody comes to kill a poor beggar on the street. They are after those who are rich, because there's something to be gained, if you knock them out, So there is that issue with the people who are rich. And also, when we are so caught up with building the riches and all of those things, we might lose sight of many things, and we might even get involved in crimes, isn't it? Now, you do all the sneaky ways to, I almost give my footnote example, so I just stop there, You know who we are thinking about this day. So anyway, so I'm not going to say it. But so all this, sneaky, manipulative and these fishy, dishy ways to, right? And there's so many crimes involved in this, So that's a negativity. And then the fact is, however rich you are, there is a limit to our lives, right? At the end of the life, welcome, bring it with you. Nobody can. So you have to leave everything behind. There is no option plan B here, like I'll take half of that and half I give you. No. Leave everything. So we have to think in all these ways to train our mind and to counteract our miserliness. How miserliness is a problem, and the wealth or the resources having too much may also involve a lot of risk and dangers as well.
我这他也得开始从这开始学了，现在他手什么的呢？就农村生活的也都，但是现在忙不起的，太多的那个。Of
course, I just highlighted one or two things here. Of course, you are very capable of, making your own list of all the problems related to, right, being attached to things and having too many things, and all of those issues. So that way, you will be able to counteract your attachment and miserliness towards possessions.
他可是在西巴的人巴当店做不他的朋友嘛东西的这多，超中中朋友嘛东啊呢，那农村新不朋友啦，店呢当然生计的，店人不的，年巴的牛啊，这把钱呢，其实 뒤에 탑지 깨지되는 지금 개발도 농주 이제 대화할 때는 제발 강금 탑지 정식 용서 뭐와 쉐바고 농주라서 베트남이 자와 장아 따와네 아니 그래서 린지 실 요시 탑지 방법해 봐라 샤라 동에 총발라 동에 총발 캐점이 톱지 손으면 몇 봐 시에도서 데다 제바타면 셀다 비 페용도 지고 삼로타는 데스거와 가서 여 리바시에네 질 디지털제 에네 게지레레 지도 샤바디 룽주 지기 제와도 때네 에네 제바토마 탐지 정주 시험부 응응과 시엔 둔데스 동거를 마도 질 에네 제바타는 시마 룽주 지고 지 용야 디데스 땅베나 페용 시험부 시작 말이스 송반하시래서 와라 송배 타기 가서 지나 거랑 그러나 지하도 또 그렇게 들어서 돼야 말아 어디서 와다 거기 정주 시는 거고 다 정주 거나 이거 배 네가 손으로 줘야 메시지 와라
So at the bottom of page 139 over page 140, the point number 4 is the hindrance of not seeing the goal. I think it's the same point. In Tibetan, it is the hindrance of not seeing, thinking about the outcome of giving, generosity. And so according to Geshe's explanation, we have to consider that everything that is produced, we call it products, are impermanent in nature, right? So anything that is impermanent disintegrates from moment to moment, okay? And nothing can last forever. This is what it is. Momentary disintegration means everything is changing moment to moment, and then finally everything gets destroyed or vanishes. So everything is impermanent, and this is more of a true of the case with the material resources and things. So, however attached we are to these things, we cannot keep them, right? One of these days we have to let go, whether we choose to let go or not, or it will let us go, So think about that, impermanence of things. And then when we give things, we make sure that we dedicate our merit to achieve enlightenment for the benefit of others. Don't give and dedicate your merit to be rich again in the future lives. This is like making a business deal, right? What do the business people do, right? You do more business, you can make more money, and then you do more business, right? That's what it is. You want more return. But that is really fulfilling a very small purpose, right? Dedicating our merit to be rich in the next life is fulfilling small purpose. We should rather be dedicating a merit of generosity to achieve enlightened state for the benefit of others. So anything we do that kind of a dedication, the merit becomes inexhaustible, right? It does not get lost in the process of time and thing. Until we reach enlightenment, the merit is preserved, and so that's why that kind of dedication is important. So why it is recommended here that we should dedicate the merit of our generosity to achieve enlightenment for others, not to become rich in the next life? Because in the context of Bodhisattva's way of life, that is the crux of the matter, isn't it? Bodhisattvas are dedicated to benefit others, and they want to be enlightened as soon as possible to benefit others, right? But in other contexts, dedicating our merit to be rich in the next life to benefit others is okay. If you look from the small level practitioner point of view, right? Not only you want to be rich here so that you can be generous and helpful, in your next life you want to reach again so that you can give away. So there's nothing wrong in that sense, but from Bodhisattva's point of view, that is making a dedication for a small purpose, right? You want to dedicate the merit for greater cause and the purpose, which is the enlightenment.
엔 거 제와시바 농지 용거를 맞아질 엔 손을 첨부 타고 말이지 타바는 메도데 히자발 그래서 디진바이 짐발라 리브 첨부 그래서 첨부 용줄해连的用是动呢从不性的没问题是我这个现在的基本上的个动那这不全部这个龙卷用现在上都是当白呢那的从的这个是吧他你们现在这个是吧我这什么都有嘛也是那从于被老张的我的基本没有的基本叫的是我是吧我的是我的
So on top of page 140, we have a stanza quoted from great Indian master Arya Deva's 400 stanzas on middle way called Chetuk Shedak or Shibjaba in Tibetan. And so I quote, "From making gifts to this person, I'll get a great reward. Such getting and giving are looked down on as being like wanting profit in business," unquote. So basically, in one sense, there's nothing wrong to dedicate the merit of your giving to be rich again in the next life, right? There's nothing wrong. But from Bodhisattva's point of view, this kind of dedication is what we call limited dedication, small dedication, isn't it? Because you want to dedicate for a greater cause and purpose, and the greater cause and purpose in this case is to become an enlightened being, to benefit all sentient beings, not just to be rich again in the next life, right? This is like almost like making a business deal, right? And so this also like we're expecting something in return, right? Well, I want to give to you now so that then I'll be rich again, So it's just like some sort of business transaction here.
다 이번 삼바들이지만 다 삼바들이지만서 다 가서 그래서 소스비게 레로응을 보세 다 지토고 말마다 셴고 강해지가 말아.
No.
좋아.
No.
이게 소소되어야 다 저버려야 돼. 순대제. 다 배우는 셴거요지 말아.
No.
다 지금도 다 레로도 주지 레도 시장도 배우 용게 이 소설 가지고 있는 이렇게
No.
이야기를 자고데.
Claro. 300원에 침바세딩 이루어게.
나를 사배지 마세요. 나 무슨 무엇이야 되러.
No. So in the middle of page 140, subpoint 2 reads, "The generosity which is just mental." In other words, this is what we call imagined generosity. Yeah, 300원에 침바. Now, oftentimes, we make excuses like I don't have enough to give, and all of these things. But if you really want to be a practitioner of generosity, our imagination is a great resource for us to be able to cultivate the mind to give and enhance that very generous mind. And so it's just that maybe we are lazy or maybe you're not habituated in thinking this way, right? I mean, this is a great way to kind of cultivate this generous heart and the mind to give away things, right? I mean, you don't have to have things to engage in imagined giving, right? Everything that's beautiful and everything that's there, we can dedicate it to and for others.
어디 다 같이서 와가 이번에 지번에 엠버송데스 이 능디 뒤에 삼바타지 닝타번에 더외 진바시 주 넘버 나서 가서 주 나서 봐 야시부 빠데메바 또배 주니 심전나 진바시고 어디 다 여도 말데 신나베 진작 심전을 강 되고 요시부 또배 상도다니 인디 심전을 봐 진베 깨자시 심전을 팬도 심바시 심전을 대기 좀 미바시 어디에 간가셔로 어디 시고래서
So what we find described in that passage in the middle of page 140 is this, that practitioners especially who are in solitude, right? They are just by themselves, and they are meditating a lot and do mind training. And this is how they practice generosity, imagined giving. They use the imaginative power to think about all the best of everything and manifest the multiple aspect of these resources and then send them away to the needy sentient beings, whatever they need. So they, just think that, well, Now sentient beings are really happy that they got everything they wanted, and through your imagination, right? So you think that their well-being is served. They have received the full satisfaction of fulfilling their needs, right? And this is the kind of mind training they do and engage in, that imagined generosity in solitude.
我想，但这这出个人说东家些不讨厌，讨个个是，那小时什么写的已经把是呢，强杀的从开始了，是吧？但这松下的个人是呢，这job的明天吧，基本东亚民个提出给家里的现在，东亚用个人呢，俺可爱学说我的是，我是东亚一般些300当时的你咋晓得吧？对，是我的。
This is really in accordance with Bodhisattva's practice of giving that is conjoined with their wisdom. Okay? And this is, of course, more appropriate for those who have almost nothing, literally, to give, but yet they can create amazing amount of merit by engaging in this imagined generosity, right? These are the practitioners in solitude or wherever. They don't have anything to give, literally, but still they can open their heart and mind and think about all this, the best of everything in the universe, create many of this and send them to sentient beings and feel happy that sentient beings have received them and their well-being is taken care of. And we have a source quoted from Bodhisattva's levels to substantiate that very point. So although this is more like recommended for those who have almost nothing to give, literally, but even those who have a lot of things to give, I mean, they can do this practice as well. But at the same time, they can share their resources with others. They can still imagine, right? How nice if I can give even more, right, over the thing. So it's just like a double, practice, if you can talk that way, right? You are actually giving material gifts because you do have a lot, right? But then you also increase your generosity, like how nice if I can give even more. So it's like a double, like a generosity practice,
我这现在这，when the当时我那几把当人呢，当中的这个东部全部开始当没呢。可是甚至刚刚来被参加的一般当然有嘛，但是那这呢当白呢，我的当然有了吧？可了，咱们没想被什么当时当的呢，东西我现在搞熟悉啊，对不对？听这效果是吧？
So another way to look at the benefit of this imagined generosity, with the generosity which is just mental. Now I don't necessarily like the way that has to be translated, but I like imagined generosity. So. There's my bias there. The benefit of that is, we are able to think about sentient beings throughout the universe, isn't it? However rich you are billionaire, trillionaire, I don't know, now I have no other words even to make more than that, right? Trillionaire, billionaire, whatever. You can't benefit every sentient beings with your wealth because your still wealth is limited, isn't it? Sentient beings are limitless in number. I mean, you are billionaire, great, but it is still a number, billion, that's all, right? It doesn't cover all the limitless sentient beings. Whereas if we practice this kind of imagined generosity, we can think about each and every sentient being throughout the universe, right? And send a gift of thoughts and kindness and generosity to each of them. Therefore, in many ways, this is much more beneficial practice of giving,
maybe say Jimba Chita Shaw she be shed of Jimba Nani, last number that we sat on Moto Padi, they told the Lungi Pumba Messi, they Shansa let it done, Shansi Samani, she sees some number of Moto Padu Lungi did that made the Medo, the Sheriff Jimba Shiva, did it, Tata did that you don't get the service enough. And it did is, shows a late and was a girl. So you rest. Satato, did I show more Lungu from what Nagazo on Nico to the two grass, Muse Yomara, Ronjing Munitas, Yoto, was that the here, the shows a late and more Geshe.
So this imagined generosity is really explained and recommended in regards to ordinary bodhisattvas. Yeah? And ordinary bodhisattvas, they may have a lot of resources, but still resources are limited, or they may not have anything at all, but they can do this kind of imagined generosity to open their heart and enhance their generous mind. Otherwise, bodhisattvas who are on the spiritual ground, the first spiritual ground and onward, these bodhisattvas are never lacking in resources to give away. Okay? But ordinary bodhisattvas do lack because, so therefore ordinary bodhisattvas are advised to, engage in this kind of imagined generosity. Of course, not to make it an excuse not to give anything. Right? If you have something, you should really give. But if you don't have, don't feel like I can practice generosity. You can do this imagined generosity practice.
어디에 제가 다다디 시야 요 유진의 어디래야. 에네 저주 사토자네. 에네 가서 룽주 매버신 대주는 동가요 말에 되게 가서 룽주 매버래야 말 단다도 룽주 민경한테 상살 되게 룽주 매왕한테 시에도 와. 시다 티시 인베자니 에네 레 당보를 시고야 유진의 어디래도.
Right. So actually stated in the Bodhisattva levels of Bodhisattva Bhumi that this kind of imagined generosity practice is explained more in relation to ordinary bodhisattvas. Ordinary bodhisattvas, my first footnote, on the path of accumulation and preparation, footnote closed, because they are still limited in resources and maybe they don't have anything. But once you are on the spiritual ground, higher level of realization, first spiritual ground onward, then you never lack in resources to give away.
어디다 돈도 어디 히바다디 닝부도데 다 간주 가르쳐서 히바다 돈도 안에 상승이 도마 송네스 다소 서서 마운드 시브니스 다데 먼저 상승 송네 저저서 라기 시작 시고르와 제가 당한테 선수만 명예나 텔박스 그냥 같이 소소소 그게 상호동단데 냠스네 나래래 여러와 어디서 왔다 손도 통 카사 통보로 짐발라스 로즈는 몸배 유디시니세 다사 토무지마도 다다 메자 몸배 디자지 가디 중나서야 몸배 유디시니스로와 용하다 용왕아 셰바다 진동라 다다니 주바난게스 당가 셰바다 지바다 가서 서승 기지바 기진의 지바셰데로와 어디 소도 눈도 되게 nga 셰바나 시 동거레스 저거로와 어디 nga 셰바 그러니까 진노라 다다는 주반남지 난가 해버 시내서 난가서 그래서 아니 진바 코로 제게 샤네 또 유다 소소 ನಿರ್고šan지 간지 그지 미세 먹고도 소소 선나 매베시 인 보드럽 테스던 선나 매베시 테스던 디 소소 통시보 냠주고 있는 인테 마데는 그가 동아요 말스 들려서 가지 난가게 되신 거 생각이 때 롱와데 미롱와가 제지고니 유지고니 가지 가리기나면 어찌 난가서 야부시에시네스 그러와 로바당 케버드 류도 룽주데 게잘 세네님부 대행시 에네 동엘로 지게소 동와라 베바시에네스 대다녀스 롬발라스 가와곰바 당 로테다르 마장발라 이 동아께 그때 대다시나 락상 시월 송바타 세라신드 측신의 진배 파지도벌 시내게 대달 탐지 돌네 에네 돌네 향네 센데 예바신드 지와세 다지바산 마산데와 다 동다도 가르세나 오 다다 동면네 왜 사탕보 인식 일지담스네 뭐베기듯이 동동느야 저 응아셰바기 베 나가 셰베신 땅 어디지 대달 뭐지 이제 가스 뒤에 경사 대다시는 어디다 녀슬라바이는 락상 쉬바 도지로와 세라히도 이 측신의 예배파지 용도 줘봐 시도 그래스 다 진짜 맞지 다다 구조는 다 누구는 민두세야 주시는 대다 탐지 돌네세 향는 센데 예배해도 지와스 와 다소 가면 다도 샤 디지바동도 디게 상문도 지는 매샤 향는 센나 예배지기 지바다 맞나 다 센네 쟁디레 이거 손우사야 요마르와 예배 gün은 gün도 그발 겨라 세라 해느냐 아니 용예면대비 상주스베 지바는 지바 해도 가원제 셔로서 제다 지발 그만 맞이나 상주스베 지바 가르치발라 얘네 파진 쪽을라 그러 파진 쪽도 당번 지바로 다들라마다 되야 도고 어디서 왔다
So at the bottom of page 140 and over to page 141, we have a summary presented there about Bodhisattva's practice of generosity. Now, everything we have talked about is really how Bodhisattvas engage in the practice of, or the deeds of generosity, if you will. And so, which is based on the assumption that once you have taken the bodhisattva vows, you have made the commitments, right, to benefit sentient beings. As a part of that commitment, we have to learn to be generous, and we have to practice giving or generosity. And as we study this bodhisattva's way of life, of course, we are training ourselves in their way of giving, so we might have to do some kind of adaptation according to our situations, right? We just cannot, Geshe didn't say that, pretend or fake, I'm a bodhisattva, so I'll do it all, like no. And we just have to be honest, right? So we have to adapt bodhisattva practice at our situation, and as we grow more, then we can do more. So we have to do that kind of adaptation, that's kind of important for us. And so as Geshe explained, that whatever we can give to others, we should do that. There should not be any excuse not to give at all. But what we cannot give at this time, or what we don't have to give, then we should engage in the imagined generosity practice. Right? This is how we practice two different types of generosity, if you will, together. Right? Don't make the imagined generosity as an excuse not to give anything. What we can and what we should, and that we should. But what we cannot and what we don't have, then we should engage in the imagined generosity practice. And in a general sense, these are the things we have to give. We have resources, right? That's what we can give, longje. And we have roots of virtue or merit, positive energy, right, that we accumulate, that can be dedicated, given to others. And then body, right? That requires a lot of training. We already talked about that, right? When to give, when not to give, when we are ready or not ready. We have also talked about what is appropriate to give, what is inappropriate to give, right? Time, circumstances, all of those things we already talked about, another time. Remember, for example, we said, should a person ask for a gift of a Dharma text that you have? Okay? Generally speaking, you need to give it to that person, right? But under special circumstances, let's say you are studying it, you haven't finished studying it, or you're planning to read it, then you can say, you know what? I would love to give it to you, but I haven't read it myself yet, so I need to use it first, and then once I'm done, I might pass it down to you. That's okay. So that doesn't mean that you have gone against the generosity practice, because that's the case. But if you are not using it for yourself, just keeping it on the shelf, well, you have to give. It's better to give to the others. So all those things we already talked about. So if we practice ourselves in that way, learn to give what we can give now, and what we don't have or we couldn't give now, we engage in the imagined practice of generosity through these kind of trainings, right? It will become easier for us to practice generosity as we develop the habit of giving, isn't it? So through this kind of cultivation of habit in this lifetime, in our future lifetimes, it becomes easier and easier to give. Yeah? This is what is stated in the sutra requested by a person called Subahu, right? It's called the Questions of Subahu Sutra. So as Geshe explained and emphasized this point, that once we commit ourselves to Bodhisattva's way of life, that means we are going to engage in the 6 perfections, paramitas. And 6 perfections starts with the perfection of giving, right? And if we can't do giving, well, we are stuck here, right? Forget about all other perfections, right? Because that's the number one, we're stuck here. So this is where, we try to train our mind to counteract our miserliness, attachment, and the things we just already talked about.
It Jimbato had the limited speaker, Zay the Simjan Oasia Marese. Shoju Simbe Cades, Shoju Sim to Medan Geshe. And the Tonson Payago, or tea in the Juba short you at the receiver. Jesus don't do the same temper. 10 on show the songs, hear some but the Jibet the Shoju Sim, and so change you go but the Shoju to moon there, but don't attempt it, so don't attempt it, you show you. Tell them was it didn't Lasan he be told you, near Tamba was that you was Zoya or what it don't boy you get dressed on your shirt in the tickers that the Yunja Tawaka 东升表，我是等的，一般的是东升表下的，我提推动的是吧？是吧？以及门前那一般，我是这有嘛的，东升小区是不是一般做小区上的要空白这样的，东升表的就我们就。即便生前表我们说去过那即便发起多少样嘛吧，就是说那谈大的。
So Bodhisattva's practice of generosity is not necessarily dependent upon whether or not you have material resources to fulfill the needs of everybody. Okay, it's not impinged upon that kind of a condition. Bodhisattva's generosity is based upon your cultivation of Bodhisattva's attitude, or bodhicitta, mind of enlightenment, and the mind to give. Right? The actual generosity is the wish to give. It's not, necessarily, fulfilling the material needs of each and every sentient being. That's almost impossible, right? If the Bodhisattva generosity is contingent upon fulfilling all the material needs of the sentient beings in the universe, then nobody can ever do it, right? Nobody can ever eliminate the poverty throughout the universe, and therefore now I claim like, hey, I did it, right? This is just impossible. So what it is to cultivate the mind of enlightenment, bodhicitta, and to cultivate the wish to give, the generous heart to give and enhance it, right? That's the crux of the matter of Bodhisattva's giving. And so with that, we complete the section on Bodhisattva's giving, the perfection of giving. We will pause there today and welcome your questions and observations.
Yeah, I have a question about the translation in the English translation. In this quote from the Bodhisattva levels on page 140,
okay.
It says that it's in the English translation. It says that the Bodhisattvas who attain the pure wholehearted resolve transcend miserable rebirths and attain inexhaustible resources. Pure wholehearted resolve. Is this the same as being on the first ground? Is this
okay? Again, this is the Tanda Quran condition. The Tanda Changsa ne lungs chang doa ge. Changsa irwa ge. Adi di do Tanda ge Tanda nganzo karso ta mebe wang ge tang ye jo rwa ge. Di wo the Changsa lung chang doa ge. Di injinal den stu sa ta Chanju samba gi da gen chabe na sen ma shi di lap to mar ke karso ore di doa ge. Bodhisattva is a pure wholehearted that Chanju Samba that also took that Chanju Chong Denga obtain a state which transcends did it Chumba Yena and a carso or the Niansolia Kigma says to Wage, Lungs to the Labiocalia, Chanju Samba, the Sat Tango Tobalia Shagora Caresati.
Oh, this Satanguresha, Takizati, Satango Tony, any Yanzo Jia, your mother, Lunju, Pomba, your mother. So that thing is you doing it. Yeah, that
refers to Bodhisattvas attaining the first spiritual ground, right? Once you are on that, then you will never fall into the bad rebirths, and you will never be lacking resources to give. Yes. Tanda again, then it's a tango de la minglia, Tanda Ming de la Ditana de Gorves or that Carsorota took Sangma Yon's job exhausting and Tinegi Minke Marwage.
Satan round the goss, that you could Ming when is in the Satu, Minglia or Satan will round the goss. Round the goss, that got Jimmy Paji young lady Shella with the Toba Siguro. No, round the goss, Tereta, Tereta, you song we gave me what did John. Karsa Swebane Towarwa. The thing is so Jabu Tombo Satambo Tomarwa. Oh, this shining shadow got in some rumors, two dollars. She in some draws of the John Sweba top ending in some Rugomarwa.
That way it says Bodhisattva or pure wholehearted resolve. That cannot be taken as a label for the first spiritual ground. Usually the first spiritual ground is called the joyous bhumi, right? That's the name, standard name given, and that has to related to the bodhisattva's fulfilling the wishes of others through giving. Actually, technically speaking, if somebody attains the patience level of the path of preparation, from then onwards, he or she is never going to fall into the bad migrations. But that being said, you still haven't abandoned something here that guarantees you, so to speak. So on the first spiritual ground, right, then you really achieve that state of abandonment. Yeah. Any other questions, thoughts? Yes. Yeah.
So in regards to the going back to the generosity, which is the mental generosity.
Yeah, mental. Yeah.
So it's just more of a training. It's a method to train our minds. So because they're actually, with the generosity that we're giving out to others, they're not actually receiving it, right?
Right.
So
Okay.
yeah. So that's
Okay, sure. 다단다 거란 디스 거래 겐다 먼저 300원에 다 침바탄하시오 와게 세디 딱고 셈종 주고지래 마도 공무수 셈젤리아게 따요 말 콘솔 게라게요 말와서 와게 고 삼바랑 총살 마도 와게
다 대세나 디스도 왔다 델라베 시다 그 콤나 에네 비게 소르가파 대와파 땅아도 동에 틀려야도 자가지게 베들 유사로 와 유도와 근데 나게냠제 제네 단다 그 말에 가서 그 로지죠. 나가 전주서 봐. 저 생대 야고 제마서 간제
근데 그 파워디 참 그래서 파워 통맥이 참 시에서 디디기 말와 힘은 나네 즉사 디디기 말와
그 말에
디는 인지로
되면죠. 다다 가서 수해 등을 수내야다. 수수다 파대야. 어디로 다 되도와 배나 라로자서 되게 지금도 집중들이 봐. 因此不要你现在的行动不要你你行动差不多的被开为的逻辑问题
그래 나사바 배수 그래
나사바 동고
하네 어서
因为来的那个呀那大一些做我啥的了呀나사바当样出来逻辑了吧这那一的就是咱小区什么的菜的我听么子我的就要的提个手送的个拍照是就没想到这七就动作学的是七动作学的一直这个提个啥的是那么的啥的都也就是看了的但个七的多学校的七的得开销嘛是那么的得挣到的我的些东西呢是我的我就是他的能的用钱用这里啊他那个这样嘛是可是老人那么就别能来要的
Geshe says, for most of us, this is more a mind training practice. Imagine generosity, right? We just use our creativity and imagination to create the best of all resources and send them to all the sentient beings, think that their needs are met and satisfied, and then, we feel happy. It's just mind training, right? Wish to give, right? That's all it is. However, as you train yourself in that way, when you reach certain like a level of realization, this might work. There are like a lot of, anecdotal stories about how some bodhisattvas, highly realized masters, when they do the Tonglen practice, the practice of taking others' pain and suffering upon themselves, giving their happiness to others, it really literally worked as they wished. It's not just a mental thing. It really did. And Geshe was trying to remember some stories here. He said, unfortunately, he doesn't remember the name of that bodhisattva, but often our masters tell that story in the context of Lamrim lineage masters, where once a bodhisattva was teaching, right, giving a discourse on the throne, somewhere in that vicinity, somebody, hurled a rock at a dog, right? And then the bodhisattva fell off the throne, and then people said, what happened to him, right? And actually, the dog was not hit or hurt by the rock, but the bodhisattva got hurt, right? So that's how the bodhisattva somehow took that pain from the dog, and he received the wound and the pain. So it works at certain level, when you have a highly trained mind. Or according to some stories, that the great translator Ralozawa, he has certain ability that he was able to take the sickness of others, and as if he kind of take the pain of the other or the sickness, and he transferred it onto the trees. So oftentimes the woods of the tree crack and things like that. So he can lift off their sickness and free them. So certain things like that. Or there are like issues about sometimes there's stories related with Miller Rebbe and the Geshe Tsabuba. They're doing some exchange of things at a mental level and actually literally experiencing whatever they were exchanging. So at certain level it works literally, but overall general sense it's more like a mind training. Oh, so it's the yogi Maitri, Chambe Nenjo, right? That master, who was teaching, and then somebody hit the dog with a rock, and he got hit by the rock, and not the dog, and he got the pain. So I think at certain level, like to be able to provide some kind of a limited help, like extent of taking others' pain upon yourself and freeing them from their sickness of pain, those things work. Of course, now in terms of achieving freedom from samsara or becoming a Buddha, that's an individual case. Nobody can do it for each other. Like, okay, I'll just transfer you to the nirvana or the Buddhahood, and there's no way to do it. It's just all we have to do it ourselves. Any other thoughts? If not, I'm going to make some announcements. I hope I remember the announcement. If not, Geshe can correct me because I just only got the dates. So I thought I'm supposed to say something about these dates. June 38th to July 14th. June 38th to the July 14th. At the Gandhin Shartha Monastery, there will be enthronement ceremony of our Geshe-la's, Tulku, right? Tulku Tarde, enthronement. So if anybody, would like to go in a group sort of thing together, travel as a group, or have the resources, time to do that, then please try to contact Kim Do. Is Kim here today? Okay. So remember Kim Do. Contact her latest by the end of March, right? So because she's trying to arrange a group travel, right? Because sometimes you have to do the paper for the restriction permits to go there, and maybe booking the flight together. I don't know. There may be a group rate. I don't know. Whatever is packaged in that. I have no idea. I'm just making up all the stories here, right? I'm thinking that those things. Right, and you get a good deal, and you don't get lost on the way or something. So all of the above. So if you are interested and you will have time and resources to do that, so please contact Kim Do and sign up your name for the group travel and doing things together. Okay? And what that includes also in that schedule, June 30th to the July 14th is once you are done with attended Geshe-la's enthronement, they will also take you to Balakobe on a pilgrimage to Sera, right, and the monasteries in the Balakobe region. Okay, so that's part of the tour. So I hope I remember everything. Tiken konzupike ken ge chinden yorwa gen delia nyamdo dongen ina yang di stoja be yorwa no chinda chukbe tari sumjune tumbe chupshi badore do gen no. All right, let's do prayers and dedication. Manjushri prayer in Tibetan first, those who are new here. Kange lode dimnye dinda nyinda namda rabsebe chinyen dungun chishin siche nije toga leba kanda sibe zenrar mare mendon dongen yizebe rozogun kuje daze yenla juju yangden son juda chejo nyumo leje chado deze je mare muse dongen nyugo chinyen cheze Tenen daje saju taze yenden hunzo gyaze tuyu gu suja chunyen genden dalum jambe yanglan du omara bazan na di senden köye kera veze ye dalu temo memba rabze ne kada tenju shunglu do Lord Baba Nawa Sedo Lord Yazu Utum Pega De Gazan Pongwe Chudo Memba Tenban Zinla Wando Jisha Ben Tanyan Shogun De page 21. Obeisance to my Guru and Protector Manjushri, who holds at his heart a scriptural text, symbolic of his seeing all things as they are, whose intelligence shines forth as the sun, unclouded by delusions or traces of ignorance, who teaches in 60 ways with the loving compassion of Father for his only Son, all creatures caught in the prison of samsara, confused in the darkness of their ignorance, overwhelmed by their suffering. You who, stricken thunder-like proclamation of Dharma, arouses us from the stupor of our delusions and free us from the iron chains of our karma, who wields this sword of wisdom, hewing down suffering wherever sprouts appear, clearing away the darkness of ignorance. You who have been pure from the beginning, who have completed the stages, achieving the highest perfection of a bodhisattva, whose princely body is adorned with 112 marks of a Buddha, I bow down to you, Manjushri, Om Arabaza Nadi. O compassionate one, with the brilliance of your wisdom, illuminate the darkness enclosing my mind, enlighten my intelligence and wisdom, so that I may gain insight into Buddha's words and the texts that explain them. Page 31. Like the sweet perfume of white lotus, born in the ocean of knowledge, nourishing honeybees, the fortunate being, your fame pervades all directions. You are proficient and powerful in upholding the precious doctrine. To you, O Lord Sang Tenzing Wangda, respectfully I pray.
Tập Sư Lợi, bậc đại trí, ngài đều phục hai chướng ngại, tựa nhật quang lan tỏa khắp mười phương, bậc thực chứng chân nghĩa màu rót giáo, từ tim ngài bát nhã kinh thủ hộ nhiệm màu, cõi luân hồi chúng sanh thọ nghiệp báo, bị ngăn che bởi phiền não vô minh, sở hữu 60 pháp âm thù thắng, cùng đại bi ngài hóa độ chúng sanh, tựa từ mẫu chăm lo cho quý tử, tiếng rồng vang ngài thức tỉnh hữu tình, thoát khỏi vòng luân hồi nghiệp báo, gươm trí tuệ ngài chặt đứt vô minh, tận diệt muôn vàn khổ đau cùng ách nạn, trường tử Như Lai tối thắng toàn giác, ngài an trụ nơi thập địa pháp vân, báu thân ngài trang nghiêm thanh tịnh, 112 tướng hảo Như Lai, đê đầu đảnh lễ đức văn thù Sư Lợi, cúi xin ngài tận diệt ám chướng vô minh. Om Arapasanadi, con khẩn cầu dưới gót sen bậc đại trí. Được trí sáng con thâm nhập nghĩa màu, pháp vi diệu cùng muôn vàn luận giải. Như diệu hương ngọt ngào từ sen trắng, đàn xanh nơi trí thủ thắng đại dương. Hàng thiện căn như ông mật thọ nương, hồng danh ngài khắp mười phương quảng bá. Đấng thiện xảo uy dũng bảo tồn pháp bảo vô giá. Nam mô Lốp Sang Tenzin Quang Đắc, xin cung kính trì niệm.
ye wo nyang ba me ba yang ko ne ko pe wo yu sa ji be ji ju ji me do zhang ri ra ling xi nian de yan ba sang jie jin do me de wi wa ye zhu gui Xue bai yu kang ri ra vi guo vi xin gang de pen dang de wa ma lu zhong bei ne xian ri si wang din xin jiang zu yi xia vi si dian ba dian yu ji yi dang gu ru ra na mang jian lao gong ni yan dan 没有。